Hello, this is Rich, and welcome to day 19 of 28 Days to Hypnosis Success. Tonight is a really cool subject, which is anchoring. In fact, we're going to be doing conversational anchoring. And the reason I want you to know about this, the reason I'm putting this in, the reason I'm giving this NLP masterclass, in fact, the third NLP masterclass within the series, is because this is a topic that probably out of all the parts of NLP that I've used over the years has been the most useful in terms of working with clients. It's been the most useful in terms of presentations. It's been the most useful in terms of me being able to market effectively. It has been really, and it's been the most useful, honestly, for me in terms of being able to manage my own emotional states. Because the whole way that I work, the whole way that I understand and approach everything from presentations to being able to teach, to being able to train, to being able to motivate myself to do things, to be able to motivate myself to do marathons, or well, half marathons. Well, we're working on a full marathon. But the way that but even if I was going to do that, yeah, I would still use this same process of state elicitation. What is a state? A state is essentially, the easiest way to think about it is a strong feeling, a strong emotion, okay? When we talk about state, we're talking about a strong feeling or a strong emotion. And we're going to look at this in detail because if you think about it, when people come to see you as a coach, as a hypnotherapist, as a hypnotist, people come to see you and they're in one particular state. Let's call it crappy. And they want to be in another state. Let's call that happy. They want to go from crappy to happy. How are you going to do that? How are you going to approach that inside yourself? In traditional therapy, of course, people will talk about that and where they came from and their family situation, all that stuff. I'm quite fortunate in that, other than a brief kind of hiatus where I went to study study a counselling course after I've probably been doing NLP and hypnosis for about 10 years, and only to be told that we weren't allowed to see clients for at least 5 to 7 years because it's very complex to deal with all those kind of problems and nuances. Which honestly just amazed me, shocked me, baffled me. Learning to work at the level of state will give you a massive, massive advantage in everything that you do. We're going to cover some that we've mentioned before. We're going to deepen our knowledge of it in terms of how you can use your physiology, how you can use your voice in a very particular way. You're going to understand probably one of the coolest things that you can use with your clients with presentations, just to be able to get more juice out of them, to have more fun, to keep yourself fresh, to keep yourself the way you want to do. And you're going to learn how to help somebody else change or feel inspired simply because you put yourself in that state first. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today. It's going to be very simple. There'll be a couple of small little technical things, but honestly, when we get on to the revivification, which sounds revivification, that does sound somewhat complicated. When we do that, you're going to realize how easy and simple that is to do. And because you realize it's easy and simple, you'll be tempted to just give it a little try, to just have some fun. And I'm going to show you how to do that, how easy it is and how natural. It was a while back, a friend of mine, Adrian, lovely guy, he actually wanted to, we were having a conversation, and a friend of his, another good friend of his had passed away a couple of years before. It was an anniversary. And rather than just being upset about it, he actually wanted to focus on a particular time they'd had together. He wanted to remember some of the fun that they had, because it was those memories that he really wanted to honor. And so I said to him, well, Adrian, look, your friend, just tell me, what kind of things did you used to do? Where did you used to hang out? And he would say, well, we would travel all over the place. And I said, well, just tell me one of the times when you were just hanging out together and you just, you were just having fun, you were kicking back, and you were just, something that just, however small, had great meaning for you. And he said, well, there was this one time I went to Australia. So I was like, okay, so you went to Australia. And which part of Australia was that? I said, well, we were in Darwin. And I'm like, okay, so you're in Darwin and in Australia. And he said, that's right. And I said, well, who are you with? He said, well, I'm with my friend Eddie. So I was like, okay, so you're in Australia and you're in Darwin with your friend Eddie. And what's happening? And he said, well, we're sitting in the lounge And we're just talking about this guy who we met on they used to travel around the world together on these holidays called Kentucky before you get to 30, and then they kind of said you can't go anymore because you're too old. Or maybe it's 40. I can't remember. They had some kind of like rule about age. So anyway, so he said, well, I'm there with my friends, and we're talking about this guy who we met on holiday, and he was a bit of a Forrest Gump character, and he just made us all laugh. And so I said, well, okay, so you're there. So it's, and he had said as well, and so Adrian said, it's a really nice, I just remember it being a really nice evening, and we could hear, we could just hear the insects outside. It was just really nice and warm. So I said, okay, so you're in Australia, you're in Darwin, you're in Eddie's house, and it's a lovely warm evening, and you're listening to the sound of the insects outside. And you're remembering a really cool holiday that you went on, and you're chatting and you're laughing with each other, and it's getting funnier because you're remembering that guy who's kind of just a bit like Forrest Gump. And Adrian's looking at me at this point, and he's smiling and he's starting to beam, and he says, the funny thing was Eddie's wife walks in at this point, and we're just smiling and giggling hysterically. And she comes in and she's looking at the two of us just sitting there giggling like little schoolgirls, just going, what is going on in here? So I said to Adrian, so I'm looking at him at this point, and I say, so let me get this right. So you're in Darwin. It's a nice it's a nice warm evening. The insects are outside, and you're there with Eddie. And as you're there, you just start the conversation naturally gravitates to the good times. You remember being there. You remember being on one of the Kon-Tiki holidays, and there's that guy, and he's kind of harmless. He is a bit of a Forrest Gump kind of guy, and you just can't help but laugh, just kind of like the way you did back then. And then then Eddie's wife walks in, and I'm looking at Adrian. I say, so what was that like? And he is beaming all over his. He is smiling. He is alive. He is happy. He is fun. And I just said to him. And we took, by the way, maybe like 3-4 minutes, just like we've done now. I said, so Adrian, how does that feel? And he said, Rich, I was there, I was back there. That just felt amazing. So I looked and I said, that's right. That felt amazing, didn't it? And isn't it amazing to know that anytime you want to, you can re-experience that, because that memory is alive in you. And to the degree that's alive in you, it means that your friend, it means that Eddie's alive there, because the memory of him is alive. So whenever you think about him, you can feel that glow inside, and you can remember that memory, which means you can remember other good times. So that even though he's no longer physically with us, you can still remember and honor and cherish that inside. And I said, how good does that feel? And he's looking at me and he's smiling and he's like, yeah. He said, that's exactly what I wanted. So that little story has great meaning to me, because this is exactly the way that I have worked with clients for a very, very long time, specifically using anchoring, specifically helping people access the memories, the feelings, the states that they need to be able to feel better. Because that's in essence what we're doing, isn't it? We have people contact us because they have a problem, and we want to help them feel better. Talking about it, analysing it, blaming people, that's not going to help. What we want to do is we want to help elicit those resourceful states that are going to help people to naturally connect with those resources and abilities inside. Now, some people, of course, are going to go straight there and be able to feel wonderful at once. Other times it's going to take a little, you're going to have to get a little bit gentler. You need to break it down into smaller chunks and smaller segments. So I'm going to run through and I will show you how to do that later on, the conversational revivification, which I originally learned with my teachers, John Adolph and Julie Silverthorne, a long time ago, and they modelled that from Milton Erickson, who was renowned for, people would come in to see him, and he would spend a long time. Admittedly, some of his sessions were very long. You might even see somebody for 3, 4, 5 hours, and he might see people for, a very, very long time. But one thing he would do, which was really useful, is that he would take time to just seemingly have random conversations. Oh, so what do you like to do? Oh, you like to go fishing. And he would revivify those experiences so that when somebody got to the point of saying, I love sitting there and just love it. When I catch a fish, I'm holding my hands, I just get this really good feeling. And he would say, that's right, you get this really good feeling. As you're holding the fish in your hands, you get this really good feeling. And so he would anchor that in. And so of course, that leads on to the obvious question, what is an anchor? So let's make sure that we are on the same page, which is this page, so that we know exactly what we mean, okay? So an anchor, and by the way, I'm going to go over and I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you really want to master this stuff, why you want to know about it, why you want to have this in your repertoire. But remember, with the Rapid Instant Change Hypnosis system, with the Rich system, we want to make sure that you have the best customer service end to end. You absolutely deliver on all levels. And this is something that's very important in our industry because, anchoring is one of the main foundations of NLP and that particular approach. And it fits in very, very well into hypnosis. Whilst there is, arguably no state of hypnosis itself, the other emotions and being able to elicit them in people, being able to help people feel curious or feel excited or to feel hope, that is something that is really powerful stuff. And if you understand how to do this, you'll just be much better with the quality of suggestions that you give. Because when you're interacting with people, you will have in the back of your mind, what kind of emotions am I bringing out in other people? What kind of emotions are inside myself? And what kind of emotions am I bringing out in other people? And if they're not, and that will prevent you from perhaps giving suggestions just willy-nilly, that are, particularly outside of a therapeutic situation, because you're not really thinking about the end in mind. You're not thinking about the way that you're feeling and the way that might be causing the other person to feel. It'll give you a tremendous amount of power to be a force for good. But it will also really set you out in this, it'll set you apart in this industry, because any of your marketing, presentations, when you're on Facebook Live, you will be able to drop into the right states because you'll understand exactly where you're going. You'll understand that all stories flow from a particular emotional framework. You'll understand how to think, after we've been through this today, how to think through the kind of sequence of emotions that you want to have come up and come out. And actually, it's not, there's no magic to this. It's not like, the co-founders of NLP are the only people who can do this, and they are just, the absolute magical gurus. Not at all. This is something very easy and natural. This is something that you already do. We already do this in our lives. It's already pretty much, arguably, at least from the behavioral perspective in psychology, this is how we are conditioned in large part. And so this is a natural part of our life. And once we understand the way anchors work in terms of feelings and resources, once we understand about anchors in the environment, it allows us an ability to break free of the tyranny of our old conditioning, and in doing so, be more empowered and be more empowered to help out other people. So let's make sure we know what we're talking about when we mention anchors. An anchor is simply a stimulus linked to a response. Okay. The very earliest thing of this was a real mean experiment in psychology. A lot of science and psychology used to be pretty mean. And back in, and I want to say it was Watson, but it may have been Skinner. Let's go with Skinner. I think it was Skinner, one of the early behavioral guys back in the 30s. They wanted to do an experiment to see if they could induce a phobia in a little kid. And I think he's been called Albert. Nobody really knows. We don't know what happened to him, after the terrifying experiment that the psychologist did. But there we go. That's why we have ethics committees now. So we do things a bit differently. But Albert was presented with a rat in front of him. So, before the experiment, he's 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever. He doesn't really mind rats. So you put a rat in front of him. He's not fussed with that. What the psychologist did was when he was looking at the rat there, they would go up behind him and go, and they would sort of like go, boo, and they would make him jump. And they would keep doing this over and over again as he's looking at the rat over a period of time. So now he looks at the rat and he automatically has a response. He automatically feels uncomfortable. Okay. Now that's we actually using what you're going to learn here today, we're going to be able to do that in reverse. Okay. We never want to do it that way around. We want to do the other way around. So we have tools here. We have tools to break those kind of things that we can anchor that the uncomfortable feeling of the rat. If we met Albert now, there are lots of ways we could work with him. One way is we could anchor the feeling, the trigger of the uncomfortable feeling he had with rats to one knuckle on his finger, then have a chat with him so that he forgets about it, and then we could talk to him about the things he loves in his life, and we could anchor that on another knuckle, and then as he thinks about the rat, we would press the first knuckle, which activates the first set of feelings, and then we press the second knuckle to start to activate the second set of feelings, the positive ones, which we've made sure are a lot stronger than the original problem. And then we let go of we'll let go of the first knuckle, and those feelings will tend to integrate, and we can run through that pattern a number of times. That's called collapse anchors. It's very straightforward to do, very easy to do. And the secret with that is that, honestly, you're not going to have to take very long to anchor a negative problem in, because let's face it, our clients are very good at being negative. It's going to take a second or two, and then you've got to break the state. You've got to clear the slate. The second thing you're going to do is take some time to get them to access the resources, the abilities they want. That the times in their life when they felt good or happy or excited. And if they, and typically they may have a little challenge with that at first, at least with the way anchoring is typically taught. So we're going to look at some ways in which you can bypass any of the resistance or performance anxiety they might feel to being able to, get into states of happiness or excitement or laughter. Okay, and we'll see how to do that very soon. So basically, a stimulus causes a response, and it happens automatically and instantly. With Albert, looking at the rat now makes him feel uncomfortable. When clients come to see you with a fear or phobia, typically it is what we call a visual kinesthetic synesthesia. So that's some jargon that is handy to know when you hear other people use it, just so that you can, you say, oh yes, I understand the VK synesthesia. The visual kinesthetic synesthesia means they see it and they feel the response. It happens instantly. There's an auditory kinesthetic synesthesia where you might hear something and you feel it. So typically, for instance, if you hear a song that was from back in the day when you used to go out with your mates and party, you hear that song again, you start to feel excited. You might start to feel nostalgic. I mean, there may be certain albums that you listen to a lot when you were with a previous partner, and you probably don't necessarily really enjoy listening to them now, because when you listen to that, you automatically start to feel the way you felt back then. In fact, those feelings can become so strong that you might even start to mentally kind of like imagine or hallucinate some of the places that you were at together. Okay, so these are naturally occurring in our lives. They happen all over the place. A sunset is a natural cue, a natural visual cue that will tend to, for a lot of us, make us feel a warm glow inside. The set of dirty dishes on the side of the kitchen may cause another feeling. So anchoring simply means there is a stimulus that causes a response. That's it. And the response will be typically a feeling, and on the back of that feeling there may be certain other things that happen or don't happen. It's really important because, for instance, most people who come to see us won't be aware of the cues in their environment or internally that are causing the triggering of the uncomfortable feelings. And so if you can precisely narrow down to what some of those triggers are, you're much more able to work with that person. Alternatively, you can just go beyond that and start to make sure that you hone all the resources and good feelings that your clients want to feel, so they feel completely inspired. And this, my friends, is a really wonderful way to work, because you can start to, someone can come in and say to you, I've got this phobia, I've got to get rid of, this phobia of spiders. So that's great. So you've had this a while, oh yeah. And you go through your little reports and say, look, just park that for a moment. So what do you, what do you do again for a living? Oh, I see, you do that. How old are you? Oh, right, okay. So let me just ask, so what do you like to do for fun? What kind of things do you really enjoy doing? Well, I love going out to we're here in Wales and a lot of people like going to rugby. Oh, it's great. I love going and seeing rugby. I say, oh great, well what's the what's the most exciting match that you've ever been to? Say, oh 3 years ago we were there and we were watching the final. Oh, and we were against England, and and I felt so alive and I felt so excited. And I was there with my friends. So now of course they're starting to automatically revivify, which means revivify simply means to bring back to life. To bring back to life the old experience as if they were there. Revivification, if you think about it, if you think about regression as being a very, that's kind of like where they're totally in that experience. Revivification is taking you closer, it's sort of taking you down that route. And if you do that just with positive emotions and states, you will naturally help them elicit the anchors that they already have there. You will be able to use a word or a phrase to be able to bring that back into your therapy session later on to make sure that they have exactly the resources they need. You can literally take these feelings and emotions and put them where the old problem used to be and stack them on top of that. And it's like starting off with a little cup of, say, black ink, and you're pouring pints and pints of water on it, and in the end, it's so diluted you can't even see the ink. How cool is that? It's really easy to do, it's fun to do. So I just want you to understand that's anchoring. Anchoring is stimulus response, and it comes from the experiments with Pavlov's dogs. The Russian scientists years ago would ring the bell, dogs would have some food, and what happened over a period of time is you'd ring the bell, give them food, ring the bell, give them food. Eventually, after a few weeks, they would salivate at the ringing of the bell, irrespective of whether the food was served, because the sound of the bell was now the trigger that caused the response. So the response can be a feeling, but it was actually, in this sense, it was actually triggering the salivary response. Okay, so we understand that. Let's move on now. Let's get into, in fact, let's just make sure we understand how crucial it is for you to just realize that what you're learning here is going to help you be perceived right across the board as an absolute expert in your field, which of course is going to help trigger the placebo effect, so that when you work with clients, when you give presentations, when you do the work that you want to do, that you're absolutely perceived as somebody who has mastery in this area. So the first thing is, anchoring gives you, if we think about it in terms of the CAT model, it gives you credibility, gives you authority, it helps trigger the placebo effect. Because people who can help tell stories, for instance, or start to move into a space where there's excitement or curiosity or intrigue, are naturally compelling to be around. People can kind of sense when something's changing inside of them. And particularly if a hypnotist is there and they start going into, they start speaking in a different way, and people kind of know that something's happening, but they're feeling good at the same time. It's quite intriguing, it's quite compelling. And, and anchoring is something that in our industry, people will expect that you understand. In fact, if you think of complete mind therapy, if any of you have looked at the complete mind therapy scripts that Alex William Smith put together, there's a particular part in it where he gets you to think about the best time in your life and remember a time when you felt wonderful. So this is actually in the hypnotic trance, so about halfway through, and he calls it the ring of power. So he gets you to bring your finger and thumb together. So as you feel the time when you felt confident, and you remember that wonderful time in your life, when you felt fantastic, when you felt excited, bring your middle finger and your thumb together and squeeze it. That's right, squeeze it together, and then let it go. And the thing with that is, you can do that a number of times. Do that 3, 4, 5 times, and of course you'll test that with your clients afterwards when they come out of trance. It's a really cool way to work. I mean, this is the easiest way. If you ever wanted to use self-anchoring, well, let's show you. We'll show you the standard NLP traditional way to do it, which is outside of a trance, which makes it a little bit more. It gets easier the more that you get into this, and we'll show you with the revivification. But cold, it's perfectly possible to do it. And here's how you would just say to yourself, well, okay, let's think of a time when let's think of a time when I was just having so much fun and I was excited, I was completely inspired. So for me, I'm going to think back to the Royal event, and I'm there and I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and it's just a real buzz. Have you ever been in a place where there's a complete buzz like that? There are people around you who are masterful at what they do, and they're challenging, and you're getting so many new ideas. and you feel completely inspired. And as you think about that now and imagine being back there, that feels like squeeze that middle finger and thumb together. You squeeze that together for a few seconds and then just let that go. That's right. And then just take a deep breath and just remember being back there again now. In fact, see what you saw, remembering those kinds of people who were around you. Who was there? What kinds of things were they saying? And just that's right. Imagining as though it was bigger and brighter and closer, and you can hear that now. Imagine and remember what it felt like as you were there and you were interacting with somebody, or somebody said something and you could think, oh, what, this is just incredible. And as you feel that feeling inside, squeeze your finger and thumb together, squeeze them together, and then just relax. And then just do that one more time. Just allow yourself now to remember that time, to think back to that time when you were just inspired. The people around you were inspiring you, exciting you. You felt stimulated, you felt alive. You were somewhere where you were completely inspired. As you remember that experience, feel that, squeeze your middle finger and thumb together. That's right. And then just let that go. Now, here's a really cool thing. Now you can just Did you see what happened there? Did you see the physiological change inside me immediately as I squeezed that together? If you take a little bit of time to do this a few more times, you'll find this will start to become more powerful. The secret is to do it very quickly, access the state, get back there. Sometimes it can be nice to have somebody take you through that process. What, you want to do it one more time? That's okay then, cool. So just allow yourself to think back to that time when you were amongst other people and you felt inspired, you felt alive, you felt excited, you felt, yes, this is special. I'm loving this. I'm so happy to be here. The people around me here are fantastic. The things that are just happening here are totally inspiring me. And as you feel that, and as you remember that, and as you see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt, squeeze your finger and thumb together now. That's right. And just let that be continually anchored inside you now, and just allow that to relax. Now, what will happen is this can become very quickly anchored inside you. Sometimes inside your mind, as I'm thinking back to that, as I squeeze this now, I feel alive. So now inside my mind, I can have the anchor alive as I do that. So I'm having fun with this. So as I'm talking with you now, periodically, I might just inside my mind go, alive. And you might just suddenly see me. You might see if you can spot me when I do that, because I think this is going to be fun. But the point is, you can do that anytime you want to get in the right state to do something. This is a wonderful thing to do. You'll find a lot of presenters use this anyway, just to keep themselves energized and pepped up. They will have all kinds of anchors that they use, and it is that simple. The trigger, the response. All right, see how easy it is. But imagine now being able to suggest that to your clients. This is a wonderful thing to do, because of course it's adding value to your client, because not only are you helping get over the fear, the phobia, the habit, now you've given them a tool, a resource that they can use whenever they want. This gives them that reassurance. You can build in self-worth, you can build in self-love. You can use, you can build in multiple things. You can build in a number of different resource states and condition them to the same anchor, so that they simultaneously feel love and kindness and happiness. You can build those in. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and we'll see how to do that. But just in case, you need 10 more reasons to absolutely understand why this is just something really profound for you, that you can use, that you don't need to go on an LP course to necessarily know this. There are lots of good courses. Of course, it's good to learn information. It's good to practice things. It's good to see different ways that they're done, so that you can get different nuances. But honestly, you will get credibility, authority, be able to trigger the placebo effect. If you can do that with yourself, you can do that with other people. You're going to start to, and this is just like the basic kind of starter way of working with this. I'm not sure you some more really cool ways you can do it. So anchoring allows you, secondly, to elicit states like fascination. Okay, so people are crappy, you want them to feel happy. What do they need to feel happy or resourceful? What kind of things do they need to be able to experience internally? Anchoring allows you, allows you to do this mindset of thinking, what does the client need to be able to get where they're going to go to? Now you can ask them, and you'll start to get some ideas of this, but you're going to be thinking strategically about this. Anchoring helps you tell effective stories. Okay, so if I were to tell you a story about, if I say, well, once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a man who came across a lamp, a magical lamp. And he took it inside his house, and he was really curious to see what was inside that lamp. All right, there's nothing. We've got the words, we got nothing, okay? Because of course, yeah, you know this, yeah, 55% body language and physiology, 38% voice tonality, okay? 7% is the words. That's you just got the pure basic 7% there. But what if you had a story like this? Many years ago, there was a young man who was walking along the street, and suddenly he found on the ground a lamp. As he looked down and picked up that lamp, inside, he started to become curious about where this had come from. All right, can you see the difference? We've used the same words, but because we've got the 93% that really counts, the physiology, the voice tone. Crucially, I'm in that state myself. So I'm massively curious and excited and interested as I'm telling that, and that comes out. And because it comes out in me, you will tend to experience that to some degree as a rule of thumb. So anchoring helps you trigger credibility, authority, the placebo effect. It'll help you in your industry be perceived as an expert, help you elicit any states inside people because it helps you to tell effective stories. It helps you stay inspired because you have to go there first. This is one really cool thing about anchoring. If I'm going to help clients go from feeling unresourceful to feeling excited and positive, I have to feel those states inside me first to be able to go there. And this is a really cool way to work because it means that you spend a minimum amount of time in that kind of negative stuff. In fact, you want to get out of that and get your clients out of that as quickly as possible. They'll need to just access that very momentarily, but you want to get out of that and spend most of your time moving towards these resourceful states. And you will actually be going there first so that you feel those feelings so that they naturally pick up on it because you'll be modeling it for them. So the fifth thing it allows you to do is it allows you to master the meta pattern of all NLP patterns. So remember, that's the pattern where you associate to the problem, you take a step back and clear it, you dissociate from the problem, then you access all these resources, feeling happy, calm, or excited, or whatever it is, or motivated, whatever's appropriate for the context. And then you take all those feelings, and it's like the water that you're pouring on a little pot of ink so that it becomes, basically, there's so much in there that through the process of osmosis, it's just, everything kind of gets diluted, and it looks like it's just clear water again. Right? You can't even see that there was ever any black ink in the first place. And this meta pattern, once you understand this, although we'll be talking therapeutically today, when we talk about press releases, when we cover about how to integrate this into your marketing, you will see that this same pattern of using states through the meta pattern of all NLP patterns is exactly the same pattern you'll use for your sales letters, for your blogs, you can use for your Facebook Live videos, you can use right the way across the board. So it's a really cool thing to understand, because when you operate from a point of view of states, and you're always thinking inside your mind, what state, what emotions do I want to arouse, to elicit in the people who I'm communicating with, then truly you are on the path to becoming a masterful communicator. And therefore, it helps you build confidence. It helps you work content-free, because if you can start to think in terms of states, it doesn't matter, the person comes in and they can go blah, 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 problem, blah, blah, blah. All you're interested in is where are they stuck? Okay, you're stuck with this particular feeling. This is the feeling that you've got that's uncomfortable. Right, okay, let's park that for a minute. Okay, what do you need to feel in order to overcome that? Okay, now we're quickly moving, we can start to quickly move in the direction we want to go in. This is a really useful thing to do, because you can do this in your setup, in your pre-talk. You do this kind of in the rapport phase, at the beginning of your session. You can do that and start to get them excited. You can do it before or after you've done the convincers. And of course, the convincers are so convincing. They're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. You go, yeah, this is amazing. What have we created there? Now we've got an anchor. They've had a massively convincing experience. They go, it's blown my mind. And you go, of course, that's right, that's blown your mind, because you're going to use the same words that they've used. You're not going to parrot everything back, but if somebody says to you, that was incredible, it's blown my mind, if you say back to them, that was amazing, it's blown your mind, what you're doing is you've naturally used the same auditory trigger back. You've mirrored it back to them, you fed it back to them. It will reignite it'll tend to reignite the same neural pathways, and it will tend to amplify the effect of the feeling that they're feeling. So of course, if somebody's saying, that was amazing, my fingers just came together, it just blew my mind, I wasn't expecting it. That's right, you weren't expecting it. It totally blew your minds, didn't it? And they'll be like, yeah, and it'll take them deeper into that experience. And you can say it again. That was amazing. That really did blow your mind. And they will be like, yeah, that totally blew my mind. All right? Why? You'll realize that the funny thing is, I kid you not, you could carry on doing that as long as you wanted, and it will just keep amplifying and amplifying that experience. And of course, if somebody's in an experience which is like, oh my God, I can do this, something is happening. Yes, my unconscious mind just did this. It's like, wow, I can think a thought, and my body has just been able to move my fingers together, and I didn't even do anything. All right, what have we got there? We have got the placebo effect triggered in their brain. Why would we not want to amplify that experience so that they're like, this is incredible, something magical has happened here? You're going to amplify that because you can use that later on. It's a massive convincer for them that they can change, and you've managed, you are just using the natural anchor, which is the natural words and phrases and way that they say something, to be able to describe that experience. It's really cool. They have given you the recipe, if you will, to help them feel that again. So you might say, if you had that experience, you might say something different. So if I had that experience, I think I'd go like, God, that was incredible. I wasn't expecting that. And of course you would say, that's right, that's incredible. You weren't expecting that, were you? And so can you see how this it's a really lovely fluid way of working. I mean, how tricky is it to actually pay attention to when somebody's having a heightened state of emotion, or something cool or resourceful or excited, and they use a word or a phrase to describe that. So they're feeling an emotion, so that's the response. Now they've used a particular word to describe it. How tricky is it to just simply feed that back, to say that one word or couple of words back in the same way that they've said it? It's a no-brainer. They presented it to you. They presented the stimulus. They presented the anchor that's going to create the response for them. It's really cool, lovely way to work. It allows you to work content-free. It allows you to get inside the mind of the client, particularly with revivification. When we do revivification, you'll see how, for some reason, my voice doesn't want to say revivification tonight. I don't know why, so we'll see how that goes. It's just, that's right, that's cool, I like that. It's going to help us reverse engineer success through chaining states, and it allows us to give covert suggestions through implication. Because everything that we're doing is a suggestion. Right the way through our marketing, right the way through the setups, the way we speak. And as we start to gesture in particular ways, as we start to look at them meaningfully, as we start to tell stories, they start to feel something different inside themselves, and they will start to attribute meaning to that. And if we're careful in the way that we do that, we will be able to naturally start to elicit some states of positive anticipation from the people with whom we're working. This is really cool. So anchoring allows you to do many, many things. It allows you to do all of this and much, much more. So let's have a little look now at a simple way to think about how to go and get these states out, how to elicit them. The first thing to remember is you're going to be thinking strategically. What does my client need to feel to be able to solve the problem that they've got? What do I need to feel to be able to present successfully? What does my presentation need to bring out of the audience in order for it to be a massive success? Is it excitement? Is it fun? Is it playfulness? Is it, their mind being stimulated? What is it that they need to feel? So you start with the end in mind. You'll have a problem. Obviously, most clients, most situations, the problem's kind of quite obvious, and they will tell you what the stimulus is. So they will say, well, look, every time I go out, with blushing clients of mine, they'll say every time I see people looking at me, it's like I start to feel uncomfortable. I feel this burning in my face. So I see people looking at me and I feel uncomfortable. So you've got the trigger there. Look, people looking at you. This whole sense of this feeling inside, which they will kind of call, which then causes a cascade of things where they feel self-conscious. So you've got the trigger. Whenever you're working to help people install new resources and new states, you want to do what we call a break state. So this is really, really simple. All it means is somebody comes in and says, I've got this problem. I see spiders and I'm... Oh. So what you want to do at that point is, see the spider, okay? So that's a visual strategy, pretty much right across the board, okay? If they imagine a spider, they feel it. If they see a picture, if they see one, it's okay? So all you do is just say, well, look, just clear your mind for a moment. Just take a deep breath. Or you could just ask them questions. So, sorry, have you got the time? Something mundane that is great because it completely breaks it breaks their chain of thought. Okay, but you can just say, take a deep breath. Just clear your mind for it. Let's just park this for a minute. Let's just put that to the back of your mind. Now, remember, it's a really cool thing to do as well, because as well as it being a break state where you've got the one feeling, that the uncomfortable feeling. If we're going to start introducing good feelings, let's not try and mix everything together right away. Let's park the uncomfortable feelings. Let's build up all the clean resource states that we need. Once we've got a big pot of them, let's bring them over and let them dissolve over here. All right, you don't want to start mixing things together too early on. So the break state separates the problem from the resource states, from the positive feelings. But the cool thing about the break state is if you say to somebody, let's just park that for a minute, just put that to the back of your mind. Let's just forget about that for a minute. Think about what's happened. A second ago, they were saying they had this problem that was the worst problem in their life, and it was this, and it was all woe and everything. And you just said, let's just park that for a minute. Let's just shelve that. What have you done? You've given them a suggestion unconsciously through presupposition that they can choose just to not have that worry them at all, just because they've decided to focus their attention on something else. It's actually very powerful, because as you're doing that, of course, you are a hypnotist, and what our main tool is suggestion. And so we're giving suggestions, and the way I think of it now is everything I do, and with every interaction, I'm giving suggestions, whether I say it, whether I use, and oftentimes I'm giving them without even thinking about it. I may use some, a facial expression I'm not aware of, and it has a reaction. Well, I've given a suggestion. It's just I wasn't doing that with kind of much awareness, and I got a certain reaction. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not for the better. Okay, but you're continually observing when you're with clients or when you're with your audience what the reaction is. And if you say to somebody, "Oh yeah, let's just park that for a minute," and they do, and they're completely calm again and relaxed, you know that they've just accepted a suggestion from you. You know at the unconscious level that there's a presupposition there that they can actually do that. And this is cool, because it'll give you a lot of confidence to know that you're really on track where you need to go. At this point, you can start to help them to access some of the resources, i.e. the feelings that they've got inside, that when they feel those, it will be impossible for them to have the problem. That's the easiest way to think about it. So if you were to think about it in your life, in a particular situation where you've got a challenge, let's say you want to build your business up even more. Let's say you want to overcome a particular anxiety inside, or an area where there's just a lack of clarity. The question to ask is, if you were to park that for a minute, aside from that old problem you used to have, what do you need to feel such that when you feel it, it is impossible to have that old problem beyond anything you fully considered before? Now, that's just something, just think about that, because, if you want to help somebody access a resource state, like we did here before, we just said, just think about a time when you were there, and you were at you were at a conference, or you were at an event, or you were just with a group of really cool people. You know, I've been watching some people who went to the UK, the UK Hypnosis Convention. I think it's the second year, something like that. And I know lots of really cool people there, people you've heard of before, like Anthony Blackwell and other people, Bob Burgess. There were just loads of, and there were a lot of people from the Royal event who went down there as well. I was looking at them, and they were just having so much fun, and they're just like, they just seem to be partying all the time, you know, but they're having a great time. You know, they're with friends, you're with friends, you're having fun. So when you're at one of those events, what's that like? You know, what's it like when you're at one of those events and you are just having fun? You know, and you might even think back to a specific time, you know, like the last time you were there and you just felt that. And like for me, it was only a couple of weeks ago, and I'm there and I'm excited, and I'm meeting some people who I've studied with and communicated with for the first time. I'm making new friends, and there's just a real buzz, and everyone is just a delight to speak. You know, just to be in with 100 people who totally get personal development, totally get hypnosis. For me, it's just absolutely magical. You know, I mean, it's like the complete opposite of certain other situations you go into. You know, I work a lot with researchers and academics, and let me tell you, it's different. You know, so it's lovely to be in that room. It's a real exciting environment to be in. I stimulate, I feel alive, I feel very happy. You know, basically, I feel really cool. It's just really nice because I really can be myself. So when you imagine back, when you remember what that's like, when you're in that situation where you feel excited, you feel inspired, what's that like? And as you think about that now, and as you remember what that's like, squeeze that finger together. That's right, squeeze that finger and thumb together, and allow those feelings to continue to make you feel even more alive. And then just relax that now. That is as easy as you know. I mean, it really is that easy to create an anchor and set an anchor. You decide on the state that's going to be useful. You go there yourself, you feel that and experience that, and then you can have some kind of a trigger to bring that back. And I'm going to show you how to do that even more subtly and even more conversation, but I hope you can see this is a really simple thing to do, because all you are doing is you are there and you are experiencing that for yourself. And as you experience that, you can ask the other person, well, what's it like when you feel excited? Okay, and I think this is sometimes gets missed. If you look in NLP books or you see NLP courses or people who are trying to set anchors, that they're like, well, can you remember what it's like when you felt really positive? Right? No, that's not going to work. You have to get that person excited and into that state because you go there yourself. And typically, particularly for fears and phobias and anxieties, you're going to want some quite strong, high energy things. So laughter is always a great one. I love using it with my clients, you know. I mean, it's just such a cool thing, yeah? Because you know what it's like when, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got friends who crease me up, you know. I mean, I had one friend and he just completely creases me up the whole time, you know. And, you know, of course, like if you're married as well, then, you know, your partner's going to be used to kind of ribbing you from time to time as well, because they're going to know, like, yeah, you're silly fireballs. And, you know, so I don't know if you have people like that in your life who just do little things, but they just make you laugh. They just, you know, crease you up. And if you were to remember one of the, you know, I don't know, has anyone ever done anything so silly that you just couldn't help but laugh? You know, the more you thought about it, the sillier it became and the funnier it became. Can you, you know, do you know what I mean? You know, like, I just, you know, I mean, I went into the kitchen the other day and my son was laughing and he was like, oh, Daddy, you're so funny. And I was like, I said, oh, you know, I like to think that I'm funny. You know, I do like to think I'm funny. And I'm just joking with him. And my wife walks in and she looks at me and she says, you know, you like to think you're funny. And we are in absolute hysterics because it's really, you know, I mean, talk about the power of, you know, changing the way that you use words through your voice tonality or through intonation or through stressing a particular word. Then the whole meaning that gets conveyed there changes completely. It just wonderfully reframed that. It just was a really funny moment. And so if you think back and you remember times in your life where you've been laughing hysterically, where somebody has done something, or somebody has said something so silly that the more you thought about it, the sillier it became, the funnier it became. Then the more you think about that, the sillier it becomes. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you've got somebody in your life who, like, even when you see them there, even when you think back to them, they just make you smile because they're always pulling gags, they're always just doing little funny things, or perhaps they just make a little gesture or a little comment that just makes you feel that glow inside. But these states are the kind of states that you can naturally start to prime people for, like we're doing now, by telling stories about times when you've been with somebody who's made you laugh, or somebody who's made you smile. And so then later on, when you ask your client to think about that, they're already warmed up, their mind's already going down that route. So this is a lovely, lovely way to work. So remember, we've just simply had the problem, we've said just park that problem for a minute. Now we're just asking them, what's it like when you feel excited? What's it like when you've achieved something that you didn't think you could achieve? And you can go through and you can use any of these things inside your mind. You can pick several of them. You'll anchor one at a time for your client, and you can simply do this conversation. I'll show you how in a minute. You can do this really simply and wonderfully. But let's just say that all a client really needs is to feel connected. Let's just say that somebody feels a little bit lonely and they want to feel connected. And there was a time several years ago when they went out lots and they used to have fun with their friends. But, you know, things have happened through the years, a little bit of confidence has been knocked, and they've become a little bit isolated. And so what they want to do is they want to feel more connected. They want to feel happier. They want to feel more alive again inside. And you say to them, look, let's just park that for a minute. Let's just isolate that isolation. That's right, let's just park it for a minute. I want you to think back, because it sounds to me that way back, there were times years ago when you were out with your friends. Is that right? So you were out with your friends. What sort of things did you used to do? All right, you used to go out to, so you used to meet up. You'd all used to meet up, and you would go over a friend's house. Oh, that's cool. So what would you do? Well, we'd kind of like, then we'd sort of go out to the pub. Okay, so what was it like when you used to meet up with those friends and go to the pub? We'd just go out together and we'd have fun and we would laugh. And sometimes we would go to really exciting places together. So, oh, cool. So you go to exciting places together. What's it like when you go to exciting places, when you're there with those friends? Oh, I just feel so much fun inside, and I feel inspired. That's right, you feel fun and inspired. And what's it like when you feel fun and inspired? I feel so good inside. As you're feeling fun and inspired inside, think back to that old problem and notice how you feel different. And then you wait and you observe. Because this final part here is, once you have built up the resources and the abilities, you then want to link them back to the original problem to test. And you want to make sure that when you go back to that problem, that the person, you'll literally see them. You'll see their eyes start to move in different directions as it becomes integrated. In NLP, of course, they like to call this a TDS, or a transderivational search. But you'll see their mind, this kind of integration happening inside. It's really cool, because what will happen is, conversationally, you can do the equivalent of taking the water, pouring it on the ink and completely annihilating it. You'll actually collapse that energy, or destroy the energy of the old problem, as long as you have built up lots of resource states, or you built up at least one resource state, one positive emotion strong enough. Once you go back and get them to think about the old problem, it'll be game over. Now, you might need to do this and cycle through it a number of times. That's absolutely fine. Typically it will reduce somewhat, but it may not go down to zero straight away. That's absolutely fine, because of course, if you're working with somebody, you say, well, look, as you think back to that old problem that you used to have, obviously there's a little bit of a presupposition there. As you think back to that old problem you used to have, notice what happens. Notice what happens instead now. And you wait and you look meaningfully at them. What are we doing? Well, we are suggesting, through implication, that something is going to be happening. Of course, we've created this context through our marketing, through our setup, through our convincers, through everything else. So now, as we're doing this, and of course, the beauty of this is that you can do this and do this kind of work to test it before you even do the ritualistic kind of process of the induction and the trance. This is a lovely way to work. So when I worked with coaching clients, and typically what I would do for years is I would use this at the beginning part of my session so that people get a clear outcome. I would then help them access these resource states. I'd do the work conversationally with them. I'd make sure that they've changed. And then when we go through the ritualistic process of the induction, we can just focus on, fractionation, all those kind of things, so they feel like they've gone deeply, they feel relaxed and comfortable. But we've tested that work beforehand. We've made sure that they can think about the old stimulus, because how would you test it? Well, try and feel isolated the way you used to, and try in vain to get back the old feeling you used to, and notice what happens instead. Or think about a spider now. Imagine the biggest, ugliest spider you can, and notice what happens instead. So you can test that again in conversation. You can do all of this as easily as we are talking now. As long as you have an awareness of the states that will be resourceful for the client, you help them access one state at a time, and you test for that. You feed that back to them a number of times. And I'm going to show you a wonderful way to do that, the kind of a little bit more of an Ericksonian way of doing it, but you can really apply this. We've kind of taken this now and made it much more conversational. So how to anchor, and i.e. elicit the emotions that you want, just have inside your mind, look, the clients come in, they see something, they hear something that makes them feel a certain way, we're going to call that crappy. Now they want to be able to feel happy, or they want to feel some other emotion. Now, it may be that you can help them just by getting one feeling, but it might be that you need to move them through a few other feelings, and you can do this conversationally. Because let's say they feel stuck and demotivated. So that's the problem. Say, look, I just don't feel motivated. I've worked with so many clients over the years who said, I don't feel motivated. So I would get one knuckle perhaps like that, and I will anchor the feeling of feeling demotivated there. I'll only spend a few seconds on it because it's very easy for them to access that. So when you feel demotivated, what's that like? Oh, I feel it. Okay, that's right. Okay. Now let's park that for a minute. I do it that quickly. Let's park it for a minute. Okay, now I want you to think about, has there ever been a time in your life where you've thought, you've got to, have you ever seen the dishes that are piling up and you say to yourself, enough is enough, I've got to take care of this, I've got to get this done, and they'll say, oh yeah, I remember, doing this. All right, so I want you to close your eyes, think back to that now, see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt when you said to yourself, enough is enough. Bang, now I'm going to hold that on for a few seconds, I'm going to take it off. Clear your mind. Okay, now, when you think about a time when you were curious, have you ever had something that you were so, like when you were a kid and you were around the Christmas tree and you were so excited because you could see the presents there, and inside your mind you were saying, I wonder what that's like, as you close your eyes and remember that sense of curiosity, feel what you're feeling, see what you see and hear what you hear. Now what am I doing? I'm anchoring it on a different knuckle. Okay, so I've got 3 different states. I've got so far the problem state, the enough is enough, and I've got curiosity. Then I'll do the same perhaps with excitement. So what's it like when you're excited? Oh, when you're excited in your life, what excites you? Oh, I've got a seminar coming up and I'm going to see some friends, and I just love the fact that there's a real buzz. So close your eyes and remember the last time you were feeling the buzz of meeting people, of feeling that excitement inside. Don't sort of feel that now. Of course, I'm going to anchor that on another knuckle. And then I'll get them to open their eyes and say, I'll take a deep breath, just clear your mind. And then I'm going to anchor perhaps, go for it at the end. So, has there ever been a time when you've just been so excited, you've just decided just to do it, like it was a holiday, or there was something you said, or you saw something in the shop that you really wanted to get, and you said, you know what, I'm just going to get that. I remember buying an Echo Dot, that pretty much what it was the day that came out, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to get that now. And of course I could anchor that on another knuckle. And then what we do, if we want to do what we call a chain state, is I would just say, close your eyes. And I want you to think about that problem state that you used to have. And then I'll move my finger to the second knuckle as I take my finger off the first knuckle. I want you to start to notice what it's like. As you say to yourself, enough is enough, and you start to become curious. And as you become curious, that's right, notice it turning into this excitement inside. And as you feel this excitement inside, you say to yourself, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. Now, how tricky is that? It's the simplest thing in the world. In fact, you can start off, you've got 5 knuckles here, obviously you can use. It's a wonderful sequence that you can chain people to very elegantly. But don't worry, you won't even need to do that. You won't even need to touch your clients if you don't want to. By the way, the anchoring on the knuckles is very simple. It tends to work really well to keep you let people know what you're doing. But you'll only need to spend a few seconds anchoring each state in. Each time you do a break state. And the idea of doing this, and the reason that it's useful even to just know about this, is you're thinking inside your mind, what is the sequence of 3, 4, 5 emotions and states that the person would need to go through to get to where they want to go? And the reason this is useful is for procrastination, for depression, for certain things, you may need to have some in-between steps. So if you feel stuck or demotivated, then being able to get fed up enough to say enough is enough, it's going to have more energy, it's going to be useful to start to propel them in the direction they want to go. Now, if they start to be curious and interested as well, and remember what that's like, that opens up a whole other set of possibilities. Then you might choose to move to excitement, because that's the kind of thing where they start to feel alive again and really just in passion about life. And then you might want to go to like that time when you just did something. So I'm going to get that, I'm just going to do this now. And you can use the energy of excitement that they had that like I mentioned buying the Echo Dot, that I was so excited, I just I'm going to get this, and I ordered it. Well, I wouldn't say it was the most popular purchase I've ever had in my house for everyone else in it, but some of us absolutely love it. It's so much fun. Just being, especially now I've got that. Well, of course, now I've got the Amazon Music Unlimited subscription, all this kind of stuff. But hey, I really love it. But you know what? I've got that now. So can you see? Can you see as I'm telling that story and as I'm remembering it, it's starting to become revivified. I'm starting to feel those emotions. I'm starting to remember the excitement that I felt buying that and the responses of people around me. So my son was like, "Oh, this is quite cool. You've got a robot here that you're talking to." My wife, on the other hand, was a little bit more, well, now I've got somebody else who's got a female voice in the house, and she's basically telling us what to do. I'm not sure I really like that. So now we've got it is quite common, that, and it is quite humorous as well. And and so sometimes we we have a little bit of negotiating to do, because the little Echo Dots, this thing that talks to you, it will sometimes pipe up for no particular reason. And I find that quite amusing and endearing, but not everyone feels that way. But as I'm starting to think about that, I start to get those emotions back. Anchoring works naturally, it works easily, it works comfortably, and you're going to become a master of this, because all you have to remember is this. You're not going to have to try and remember a sequence of knuckles. You're going to have to break things down into a few emotions. Although if you understand that a person starts off with the problem and they want to get to the solution, and all you're doing is saying, well, logically, what would be useful to start to get them to move in that direction, and you develop your own little sequence there. If you understand that principle, then that's enough. All you have to do is to be able to remember for yourself a time when you felt a resource state, a sense of excitement, curiosity, enthusiasm, motivation, whatever it is, as you speak to the client, and that will naturally help them start to access that state. So if you want to help your clients start to become more motivated, you don't say, look, can you remember a time when you're motivated? What's it like when you're motivated? No. As you think about a time when I know you want to feel motivated. What's it like when you're motivated? What's it like when you feel excited enough to just go and do something? What's that like for you when you feel motivated? So can you see the difference? If you put yourself in that state first, it'll make it a lot easier. It'll actually help the other person, because you're activating their mirror neurons. You are modeling for them the way that you want them to feel. And if you go there first, they will go there too. It's really cool. By the way, the same works as if you want a very relaxed kind of state. Have you ever seen people walk up, just be very quiet inside, and listen to look over and touch someone, and that other person closes their eyes? They're just going to this very relaxed state themselves. And it's a non-verbal cue for the other person to do the same. So you can use this right the way across it, as in your hypnotherapeutic repertoire. It's a wonderful way to work. But I want you to have it even easier. I want you to be able to go beyond this so that it's even easier. And I want you to be a master of revivification, because revivification simply means that inside the people who you are working with, inside the totality of their life experience, already there are emotions and resources that they feel. And these emotions and resources that they feel can be very beneficial to them. Because once they experience that again, that delight again of those times in their life that were most joyous, as if they were there experiencing them again, then all of a sudden now you have somebody who has more joy, happiness, contentment in their life. And once you have that, it's very easy to just simply use a word or phrase to grab those resources again and then put them on the old problem, so the old problem disappears. So if you remember, with my friend Adrian, I was there, and we're just chatting with each other, we're hanging out, and he says, I want to remember a time when I was with Eddie, and it was cool. And so I said, well, great, well, tell me about a time. And so literally I set the scene. And this is natural. This is just naturally there. This is just purely conversationally. So you can set the scene with a story. You can, if you're working with a client or you're working with an audience, you can give them a future memory. You can tell them how things, you can say to them by telling a story. You can start to introduce some ideas. So you can say, well, look, hi, my name's Rich. Years ago, I kind of felt really quite lost in life. I didn't really have any goals, and really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had a very sort of academic education, but it's one thing learning how to write Latin and ancient Greek. Go out in the real world, that sort of stuff's not really very helpful for you. So I had to learn to actually be able to communicate in let's just say English, and also I had to learn to develop certain skills to be able to move in the direction. I don't know if you've ever felt out of depth in your life, where you've learned all the stuff that you've done, and you've done everything that you were told that you were supposed to do, and then you go into some situation where those rules are just completely out the window. You're completely out of your depth. You don't know what you're doing, and you feel a bit sort of helpless. Well, the really cool thing is that anchoring and learning NLP and learning hypnosis was actually for me a really cool experience, because I started doing that along with something called holistic meditation at the time, and we may talk about that outside of this another time. But it was something that allowed me to start to have a bit more self-awareness and actually think about the way I was communicating and think about the feelings I had inside myself, and also learn to sort of, should we say, condition myself to be able to behave a little bit differently. Whereas before I might smoke, I might do other habits. Now I didn't need to do that. I conditioned myself to be able to just feel better just because I wanted to. And that was really nice. And as I started seeing that people wanted to work with me, and that I could literally go through these simple processes of just saying to them, look, I know you've been having this problem for some time, but what's it like when you're at your best in your life? What does that feel like? And they would say, well, when I'm at my best, I just feel happy and excited. And I could just say to them, look, close your eyes, go inside now. I want you to remember what it's like when you feel happy and excited. Just pick the first moment that comes to mind. Just pick the first time that comes to mind. What's that like for you? And they'll start to say, I just remember this time when I was there with a friend, and it just felt so good. And I would go through this process with them. At the end, they would say, you know what, I feel fantastic. And, as I started to expand on this, I started to feel just like I had something. And now I had a purpose. Now I had something that I could communicate that was something of value. Not like that old stuff I was taught at school in those old scenarios, but something that was of value. And I realized that actually it was a learnable skill. I realized that being happy is a learnable skill. I realized that being fulfilled is a learnable skill. I realized that being a good friend is a learnable skill. And as I started to realize that life, really, most of the things in life that you would want to do have components that are learnable skills, I found that absolutely liberating. And it made me think, why was I not taught some of these learnable skills at school? Because they would have been pretty handy, to be honest. However, that's with the value of hindsight. School teaches you trigonometry and all these other things. Now we're out here and we're out in life, and we're making our own meaning because we can't not make meaning of scenarios and situations and encounters and communication, but we are learning. We're learning skills. We're learning new skills that are starting to enrich our lives, and that, my friends, is very, very exciting. So I've just told you a little story, a little vignette about hypnosis, about NLP, about anchoring, and how that's like had a massive impact on me. But now I've been setting the story, I've been setting a tone, I've been setting a direction there of excitement, of this is something really worth knowing. Now I could just say to you, anchoring is very important, you must know it. But now I've set that tone there. I've also started to prime you a little bit to start to, and you may have started to have other associations and start to even think for yourself of times when you've been inspired, or where you might have thought of situations where, it'll be very easy now to suggest, like, that you think of a time when you've been stuck and you've started to move in a direction that you wanted to go in. So it's a really cool way to work. So revivification is a way to do this conversationally. You can set the scene very quickly and easily. You could set it, if you're doing a presentation, you'll take some time. If you're working with a person or you're in a, working with a client, you'll do it in a very more matter-of-fact, quicker way. Here's what you do with revivification. You casually ask them to pick a memory. You casually ask them to pick a memory. I'll repeat that. You casually ask them. You don't say, oh, tell me about a time when you were with your friend and you felt really good. No. So, oh, that's cool. So you're with your friend, so you like hanging out with Eddie. Oh, right, okay. So tell me a little bit about them. What did you used to like doing together? That is casual, okay? Casual is not, tell me about a time. Oh, so you're with Eddie, tell me about this time. Right? That's not what you do. With revivification, can you see as well, it's got a much nicer, gentler kind of way of starting to elicit the states conversationally than the traditional process. Now, the traditional process, if I want you to feel relaxed, I want you to think about a time when you were out there and you were excited, you were with your friends, and you were at a conference and it felt so good, and as you were there and you were loving the fact that there were people around you who felt fantastic, you were enjoying it, you felt excited, you felt inspired. As you feel inspired, you squeeze your finger and thumb together, that's right, and you feel that feeling and you feel alive inside. Now that's great, that's useful. However, it's not really in the ebb and flow of normal conversation. And if you want to be able to actually be the kind of friend who's there and can help your friends really get into wonderful, positive experiences, if you're the sort of person who wants to inspire your clients to remember and re-access the natural, latent abilities and memories that they already have inside, then this is a beautiful and elegant way to work. Because you casually mentioned, so you were with, so tell me about, what you used to do with Eddie. Well, we used to hang out. Oh, cool. So tell me about a particular time when you were with Eddie. And as they start telling you that, you will start to repeat what they're saying back to them. Now, you do this again very casually. So they can say, well, look, I was in Darwin and I was in Australia. And this is really nice. So you're using kind of like a little feedback frame where you're saying, okay, so you're in Australia and you were in Darwin. And what you're doing through implication and through this kind of deferential way in which you're feeding it back is you are saying to them, look, I really want to understand this. Let me get this right. Let me make sure that I understand what you're saying. So you were there in Darwin and you were in Australia. And they'll say to you, yeah. And so then he says, well, look, and we were there and it was, we're sitting in his house. It's just a lovely warm evening. So, and then of course, now I'm repeating the first chunk and the second chunk and the third chunk. So you're there in Australia and you're there in Darwin. And you're sitting there and it's a lovely warm evening. So now I'm using the present tense. Why am I using the present tense? Okay, well, think about that. What the difference is this. If I use the past tense, it will be, so you were in Australia and you were with Eddie and you were talking and it was a hot evening. What experience does that give you? That gives you a dissociated experience, as though you're the observer looking back at that experience. If we use it in present tense, and honestly, because you use it and introduce this in a casual way, it will seem the most natural thing in the world. Why? because you introduce it naturally. So you're there in Australia, you're in Darwin, it's a warm night, and you're enjoying the sounds outside. What happens next? And this is just beautiful because you can use the word as much as you need to help with that experience. So you're simply going to go back, and you have the first part of the experience. So let me get this right. So you're here, and you're experiencing this, and this is happening, and this is happening. Is that right? And they will say yes, and then you can say, well, what happens next? And this is beautiful because when you're asking, you can always ask, what happens next? And why would you want to ask what happens next? Because it takes them even deeper into that experience. Why would we want to take them deep into that experience? Well, that experience contains within it a whole series of positive associations and feelings that once they feel them, we can, and we've revivified them. Now they're experiencing the times in their life when they have felt most alive and are happy and content. We can now start to gather those and use those to be able to go in a particular direction. So for instance, with this particular one, the problem was my friend said, my friend's died, I'm feeling sad about it, it's the 2-year anniversary. I really want to remember him and honor him and cherish him because I care for him. And I know my friend, he knows that I love him and care for him, and he knows that I have great respect. I've just and that's why when we were speaking, I could say to him, well, look, what do you want to do? How do you want to remember your friends? He said, well, I want to just remember the great times we had together, and I want that to be my times past. Yes, I do miss him sometimes. That's okay, but I don't want it to be this thing of like grief every time I think of him. I want to remember the wonderful things that we had, because that's the way I'm going to honor his memory. Now we've got a great outcome, and my friend has, should we say, covertly given me permission to explore that a little bit with him. And so by doing this and going down that route, now he's starting to bring that back. And by the end of it, the really cool thing with revivification is, you can just say, well, how are you feeling now? You can simply ask that at the end, and my friend's saying, I feel incredible. So let's run through this again. This is how easy it is. You simply set the scene if you need to in a particular context. In this context, we're chatting, and my friend just says, that he has a particular problem. Now, if you wanted an audience to start to feel some emotions, then you could prime that through telling a little story at the beginning that takes them through a chain of those feelings. It's very useful to tell your origin story or something about yourself and share that with them because it builds trust. It helps them know who you are. It helps you feel a shared sense of identity. And also, honestly, it's very easy for you to run through those experiences that are anchored inside you to very strong emotions. It's very easy for you to talk about them because you lived them. So it's not like something you have to try and remember. I mean, you're simply telling a story, but you're telling it with a little bit of panache because you're making sure that at least your body language and your tone of voice really does justice to the story. You just casually will then ask somebody to pick a moment with Adrian and say, well, look, tell me about a time when you and Eddie were hanging out. It's as casual as that. You will repeat back what they're saying in the present tense, and you'll repeat back small chunks. Don't wait for them to say, well, I was here, and I was here, and I was here, and I was there, and we did this. No, I was in Australia, and so you gently will say, oh, so you're in Australia. So whereabouts? Oh, in Darwin. Okay, so you were in Australia, and you were in Darwin. Okay, and what, so you're in Australia. So where were you? Oh, we were in Eddie's house. Okay, so you're in Australia. So you're in Darwin, and you're in Eddie's house. And what happens next? Well, we'd started to talk about this holiday that we went on, and it was so cool. Oh, so you're in Australia, you're in Darwin, you're in Eddie's house, and you start to reminisce about the good times when you were on holiday. Is that right? Yeah, absolutely. And what were you talking about? What was there any particular memory about that holiday? Well, there was this guy who was really he was called Mike, and he was a bit like Forrest Gump. Oh, I see. So you're in Darwin, And you're in this hot evening, you're in Eddie's house, and you're reminiscing at your holiday, and all of a sudden the conversation just naturally goes towards Mike. And he's this kind of Forrest Gump character, is that right? And then Adrian's like glowing at this point. You can see this. He's warming, he's becoming alive. And we're there together. Even as I think about that now, I'm feeling amazed, because as Adrian's telling me the story, I can feel him becoming alive. I can feel this happiness inside. And then the next thing that happens is, well, so what happens next? Well, we start to laugh at this guy because he's just so silly. And just as we're laughing and giggling, Eddie's wife walks in and she looks at us, and man, we just look like, I don't know what we look like. So you're there. So and now, of course, I'm feeling this energy because I'm there with him as I'm repeating it back. So you're there in Darwin, you're in Australia, you're in Eddie's house. It's a sunny evening, and you're chatting, and and the conversation naturally goes to the time when you're on holiday. And Mike was there, and he is that kind of character, isn't he? He's kind of a Forrest Gump type of character. And you can't help but start laughing. And just at that point, Eddie's wife walks in. How did you feel then? And Adrian said, you know what? We both looked at each other and smiled, and we both totally got it. And I really love that story because my friend felt totally transformed from it. I asked him afterwards because I told him. In fact, I said to him at the time. I said, look, I'm doing kind of like these different hypnosis courses at the moment, and I'm practicing things, and this was just, and I just want, and I said to him, I said, did you find just having that chat and going through that process? Because I'd said to him, in fact, I'd pre-framed it, and I'd said to him, it's okay if I just have a chat with you about that, and just to see how that feels for you, and just so that you can tell me at the end whether it was helpful for you. And he just said, Rich, I feel just wonderful. I feel so happy. I feel exactly the way I felt back then. I feel that now. It feels wonderful when I think of Eddie and his family and the good times we had. And then I said to him, well, look, I said, look, I was repeating back different portions of the experience. This is kind of sort of like the Erickson way that you would do it. I said, did you find that jarring because we were repeating? He said, no, the really cool thing was that when you said it the first time, I sort of was a bit there in the experience. But every time that you said that little piece of it, it made it stronger. It brought back the memory stronger. So when you were saying Australia and Darwin being the house, it made it feel stronger. It made it much easier for me to get deeper into that experience. And every time you said it, I went down that deeper and deeper and deeper. And I thought, wow, isn't that really cool? Because that is just a really simple thing to do. You start off with one place, where you are in a particular memory, a particular place with a particular person. And then you go to the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. And you always start back at the beginning. So you start back and so you were here and you were doing this and you were doing this. And so you start back and you're adding on each piece, that chunk of the experience as you repeat it. And of course, that means that you will be repeating back. You'll only let them say a sentence or two at most, and then you repeat it back. But because you are paying such attention, because you are doing it with such care and attention, because the whole meta message, the whole sub-communication is, you know what, I really want to understand and get what you're saying. What you are saying has it holds my interest like nothing else. I will give 100% attention to this. I totally want to get what you're saying because I realize this is important for me. And if it's important for me, for you, it's important for me. And it's important for me because I care about you. That's what you're communicating. So if you use that gentle kind of deferential way of asking, just saying, look, is this right? So this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. Is that right? And you're doing it with care and compassion, they will feel fantastic. Okay, it's a beautiful way to work. And the feelings will start to come out. You'll start to revivify, which means to bring back to life the emotional experience inside them. And of course, now, we can, at the end of it, when he says, we both got it. And you can just say, that's right, we both just got it. And when you both just got it, what was that? What did that feel like? It just felt incredible. That's right. It feels incredible because you just got it. It feels incredible because you just got it. What am I doing there? Now I've anchored it. I've used his anchor that he's said. He's revivified this experience. He's got to the end and now he's saying, I feel incredible because, yeah, we just got it. And because I've got that, now we can be there saying, you felt incredible because you just got it. So if we ever needed to bring back or revivify that experience or bring that resource to another situation where it'd be helpful, it's there. You felt incredible. What's it like when you feel incredible? When you're with somebody and you look at each other and you know that you got it. Can you see how wonderful that is? How powerful, how simple, how easy. So with revivification, the key is to ask casually. Use the present tense. You'll shift to the present tense as soon as they start telling the story. I promise you that it will just seem very natural. Use the word as. So as you're there and as you're doing this, this happens. As or while make it easy for you to bring the experience alive. Repeat the small chunks. So you go right back to the beginning each time. So it was this and this and this and this. So each time you're doing that +1. You're going to slow down. It's not like, so you're in Australia and you're in Darwin and you're doing it. No. So you're in Australia and you're in Darwin. What am I doing? I'm using implication. I'm constantly using implication. I'm implying, and I'm demonstrating through what I'm doing that I'm interested. I'm implying that this is absolutely fascinating. I'm implying that this is special, and I'm also kind of implying that there's something going on. There's something going on. We don't know what it is, but there is something going on. And of course, this is wonderful to act as kind of like a suggestion that something special is going to happen. And of course, you're going to be able to add details as you go. Now, the way that you would, in the traditional NLP anchoring model, which kind of came out of this, but is a bit of a much more conscious-minded kind of like distillation. It can be a bit harsh and a little bit, it has certain challenges with it because it's like, I want you to remember a time you felt excited, and as you feel excited, see that picture, make it big, make it bright, make the sounds louder, move them towards you, squeeze your finger and thumb, that's right, and feel alive now. That's the typical sort of NLP kind of type of approach to doing this. What's nice with this is now what the NLP model is hoping to do is to say, if you say to somebody, go and find that experience, add some details to it, some richness, enhance the experience, and once you've got it, then let's create a link between the way that you're feeling. Let's create an anchor so that when I say something or gesture or touch your finger, that you feel that. Some people feel that that's actually a post-hypnotic suggestion that you're giving, so that anchoring is working more through post-hypnotic suggestion rather than just pure stimulus response. But simply you can start to add details. So, so you can ask, well, who else was there? Well, at that moment, Eddie's wife walks in. You can say, well, what kinds of thing are they saying? So that's really cool, because if you're there and if we wanted to revivify an experience, so you've got these questions, who is there, what kinds of thing are they saying, what else, and what happens next? So let's just imagine this, that you are, let's just say, let's take an experience that we've already considered. So I want you to think back to a time when you were really hanging out with some cool people. Maybe you were at a conference, maybe you were at an event, maybe it was something that just made you feel fantastic inside because you were with there amongst other people. So I want you to just consider where you were. That's right. So you were somewhere and you were feeling something inside. Now, if you were there and you were telling these details, obviously I would tell you the specific details back to you in the same way I did with Adrian. But I know that, it's pretty cool when you're there in that environment and there's people around you. And I want you just to consider for a moment, who was there? That's right, just really consider some of those people that you met, some of their faces. And I want you to consider, what are some of the things that they were saying? Perhaps the presenters used some certain language at a certain time that made you smile or did something. But perhaps just some of the little things that people said to you who you met. And what else? As you think about that now, as you're there in that experience, what else are people saying? I mean, who else is there? And what are they saying? How does that feel inside now? That's right. Perhaps you're going out. I mean, can you remember what it's like going out in a coffee break? Because that tends to be a sort of time, doesn't it, where you're going out, and all of a sudden, so grabbing a coffee, and there's somebody there, and you don't know them, so you just, oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, my name's Rich. I'm just here. I've come up for the weekend. I'm staying with a friend. How are you doing? How are you finding it today? You enjoying it? You remember what it's like when you have those experiences, and you just keep meeting people and you're loving it. I had some wonderful, when I think back to the last event, I went to the Royal event, I met Karen, who I was on stage with, and we both did, I don't know, what was I doing, number block and stuff, and she was doing, she was speaking in, Japanese, and getting fed up with me because I wasn't, I wasn't saying I couldn't say the number 7, and she was telling me in Japanese that I had to say the number 7. And it was a really funny experience. It was a really cool experience. And I bumped into her afterwards and we were chatting. But you know what it's like when you're there and you meet people and you have a certain experience with them. That is exactly, as you start to remember that now, as you start to get some of those feelings back, the feelings are coming back to life. And that is revivification. The vivify bit is life. Re is again, so you're just simply bringing back experiences to life again. In fact, revivification takes you down a kind of route towards regression. So, some people like to see them as very closely aligned. So other people tend to see them as separate. Really depends what books you read and what scales people have. Revivification is really nice because it is wonderful and conversational, and we only use it for resourceful positive states. Okay, there is no need. The client who comes to see us already is masterful at getting into the crappy state. Okay, so we don't really need to spend too much time there. In fact, we want to spend the minimum amount of time there. We just need to know what it is. We need to see them at least when they're in that state, the way they feel, the way they breathe, the way they look, the words that they use, so that we know exactly later on, once they have transformed, and we can see that physiological change. We can see them speaking differently and hear the words differently, okay? So that's the only reason that we need to do that, so that things are lit up early on, the problem state, so that we've got something that we can pour all the water of all the resourcefulness onto. So revivification is really easy and straightforward and comfortable to do. And you could use this very naturally the next time you're in conversation with somebody. Literally, you casually ask them to tell you about a memory. As they're telling it to you, shift to the present tense. You will repeat small chunks of it all the way through. You will slow down. And you can get them to add details to it, and the more details, the richer it will become. So who else was there? Oh, all right. And just if you think about it, if you think about this is a very natural way of speaking. When you're with a friend of yours, and let's say they went to the hypnosis convention and you didn't, and you're meeting up with them and you're having a coffee, so, well, what was it like? And, oh, it was so much fun. So I was there in the break and I went out and I met Bob, and Bob was saying this to me. And you're like, oh, so you were there, so what did Bob say to you? He was saying this and he made this joke, and then I dropped my coffee and it was the funniest thing. And so now what's happening? You are those conversations where you have the greatest rapport with people are when you are revivifying experiences. So you have somebody else is there, and now you're helping them through listening and through asking questions. You are helping them really bring out the best of that feeling inside. Unfortunately, what a lot of people do, not in our field, but other people who aren't so lucky to have the experience and training that we do, will, a friend will say, oh, I've had this problem, and they go, oh, that's terrible. Oh, so-and-so did that to you. Oh, and then they say, oh, yeah, and my ex-wife did that to me, or my ex-husband did that to me. Like, oh, that's terrible. And then they did this, and then they did that. So unfortunately, they spend their time revivifying the challenges and the problems. And of course, we can just, we know to leave that stuff alone. We can focus on the resourceful states. So with traditional anchoring, we would be saying, you know, I want you to just remember what it's like when you were there at that event and you felt excited and inspired and you were delighted because people around you, people you love, people who you just felt this kind of wonderful connection with, and you felt excited and close. And as you see that, as you remember that now, see what you were seeing, feel what you were feeling, and just feel that aliveness inside now. It's good. I'm enjoying this anchor, by the way. Very nice. But with revivification, it's a much gentler thing. You do it purely conversationally. You don't need to do any of the kind of the kinesthetic kind of things. You can just do it purely by voice, purely auditorially. Setting the scene helps you up front because it will start to prime things. So the idea of setting a scene is that you might sort of, particularly if you're giving a presentation, or particularly, you know, if you had a client come in to see you and they need to have a bit more flexibility, you might tell them a story at the beginning about a time when you had, you know, you did something flexibly or a client did something flexibly, just to start to prime, just so to give them a suggestion to start to consider the possibility of that. You casually ask them to pick a memory. Oh yeah, so what's it like when you feel, you know, when you feel excited? Or what's it like? Or what's it like when you're having just, you know, when you feel loved and appreciated? You know, whatever it is that they need to feel, you can ask them. So what's it like when you feel loved and appreciated? Oh, I feel, you know. So okay, so you feel this warm glow. Tell me about a time in your life where you really felt that warm glow. Well, you know, it was bedtime and my parents were there, my mum and dad were there. I just felt so safe and I was immersed in this book. So you're there? Okay, can you see how naturally now you can, they will tend to give you a location, there will tend to be people there, there will tend to be some activity going on there, and you're simply going to repeat back slowly, so you're here, and this is happening and that's happening. And you can check in with them, keep checking in. Is that right? Have I got this right? Did I understand that right? You slow down, you repeat those small chunks, and you'll add details. So who was there? What kinds of thing are they saying? And you can go for as long as you want. I would just say to keep going at the beginning until you just see this glow, this smile. You'll see their skin color change. You will see them, their focus, they'll be defocused. They'll pretty much show the signs of trance, the classic signs of trance that you would be trained to look for if you had somebody in a deep, somnambulistic state. Okay, and you will achieve that through waking conversation. That person will not think that they have gone into hypnosis or, you know, anchored these states or revivified them, or however you want to describe it. But you will see that state in them, and what will happen is they will simply feel better, and it will just feel like the most natural thing in the world for them, because we're used to having conversations. The really cool thing is that you're the person who's there, taking the time to ask questions, to give that person the space to be able to allow these states to be activated again. You're allowing them, you're helping them press the code in so that they can open the doors to being able to feel that again. How cool is that? And it means that the wonderful beauty of this is that that person already has inside them a whole vast history of cool stuff. It's just that they've probably forgotten a lot of it. And also they haven't had an opportunity to be able to get in there and access it. And you're helping them have that access code. So this is a really cool way. It's very natural to do. You know, I mean, saying to somebody, oh, well, what's it like when you feel like cool? Tell me about a time when, you know, you had a brilliant, you know, when you were with your friend, or what's one of the coolest things that you did together that you can remember, or, you know, and you ask that casually, and then you say, oh, that's cool. So you were in Australia, were you? Oh, right, okay. So, you know, whereabouts were you? Can you see how natural this flows? You're the kind, loving, compassionate person who's there with them, who doesn't want to miss a thing that they're saying because you're so interested. And that's wonderful, because you are that person. You are that kind, professional person. And what will happen is this kind of way of working, this way of paying attention to people, will do wonders for all your communication, because you'll be actually helping a person, you'll be helping people to feel the way they want to feel, and you're there simply, you know, just, you know, you're there just to facilitate that just to help by asking the odd little question from time to time. You repeat back, you repeat small chunks, you slow down and you add details. By the way, repeating the small chunks, so you were here and this was happening and that was happening. If you remember, what Adrian said was, it wasn't annoying, it didn't grate on him, it didn't feel like, God, you're saying that again. No. The repetition helps to stabilize that memory. If you think about it, when you're learning, when we learn to do the instant inductions, sleep, person goes down quickly. What's the first thing we've got to do when we do that? Well, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to add our deepness straight away. Relaxing, deeper. And you might be touching on the shoulders, you might lift up the arm, and I said, drop your arm down another 10 times deeper. Why do we do that? Well, we have to stabilize the trance or the perception of trance, because if we don't do that, they're going to close their eyes, we're going to get sleep, they're going to close their eyes like that. And if we don't do anything, the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to open their eyes and go, oh, what was that? So immediately we say sleep and they close their eyes, we're going to be straight into the deepness. Relax, deeper. As I lift up your arm and drop it down, another 10 times deeper relaxed, 10 times deeper relaxed. As I gently rock you from your shoulders, you start to go even deeper and deeper and deeper inside. The more you hear my voice, the deeper you go, the more relaxed you are. You go straight into that to stabilize the experience, to stabilize that experience. And that's exactly what we're doing as we're gently repeating all the component parts of the memory of the experience that we are revivifying. We start off with it, and then we add the next component piece. Then we go back and we mention that again and again. And each time it's stabilizing that, it's making the inner sort of brain architecture for that experience. The inner landscape is becoming stronger and it's becoming firmer. So that then as we add the piece at the end, those details, which are the real little nuggets, we've got a strong enough foundation that the person can really experience that. And that was exactly what Adrian's experience was. Cool, isn't it? It's really nice, because I think revivification is a lovely thing, because it helps you, as I've become more confident and comfortable with this over the years, it's allowed me to ask people questions and just sit there and kind of listen and just, really ask better questions so that people can tell me about positive experiences in their lives and feel good, and so that we just enjoy hanging out together and having nice experiences. And I don't always get that right, and I still make plenty of mistakes, particularly if I'm not really concentrating, and if I, usually the typical things that go wrong in conversation is if you just assume that you know what the other person's saying without really taking the time to understand it, or you just blurt out something of yourself rather than actually giving them the space to actually speak. What's nice about revivification is it's a lovely way to help people naturally reconnect with the experiences in their life and the memories and the times that have the most meaning, juice, positivity, happiness, and just wonderful meaning. And so you really become a positive agent of change as you do that. So we've covered quite a bit of ground here today. And I want you to just understand a few key things, so that, not that you have to necessarily go out and use all of this, because you're going to be able to, particularly if you're in the members area, you'll be able to watch this again. I will do some other stuff. I will be showing you how to use these principles in other areas. So outside of therapy, I'll show you how to use them for newsletters, or for your website. I'll show them how to, for articles, for blogs, in your marketing, certainly for press releases. Because if you can understand about eliciting states, and if you understand about this, then just think to yourself, if you were going to write a press release, would you just do it from a point of view of going, I feel a bit bored today. I did one before, they brought me that fast. I'll write it now. But is that likely to get down on paper something that's going to be good for you? No. So when you're doing it with me, you're going to have your pen and paper, and we're going to say, right, okay, let's pick something in your business that you love, that really excites you. Now, it doesn't really matter too much. I just want you to pick, maybe just think of the last client who you worked with. Let's just pick that. Let's pick the last client who we worked with who said something positive. And let's just write a press release about it. Even if we're not going to send it, it doesn't matter. Even if we don't have the permission, let's just write it now so that we've got something, just so that we can go through the process of doing that, so that you have that experience of doing it, so that you can feel those emotions, so that by the time you've done it, you've got that there, you can look at it, and you'll know that you can easily pick anything else. Now, if you do have something that you want to talk about, like you've just recorded a new CD, or you have an event coming up or something else, or you've just qualified in CMT or something else, that's absolutely cool. We'll do that too. But if you can't think of that, then well, let's just pick the last thing that's happened, okay? So I'm going to prime you for that. I'm going to get you excited. I'm going to get you to just pick one thing very quickly so that you don't start thinking, oh, I'm not sure what to. No, we're just going to say, right, if you are not 100% sure right now, this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to do that with you. Let's just pick the last client we worked with. And we're going to write a release about that so that you go through that process, so that you get pen and paper and you scribble it out. And we're going to get excited as we start to do that. Then we're going to get curious. Then we're going to imagine somebody reading that and being inspired. And because we're going to be feeling those states as we do it, and we're going to go through it in a very particular sequence, what will happen is it is very straightforward for you to do that. You'll do it, of course, it will be rough. It'll be a rough kind of like diamond at the end of that, and you'll be able to polish that later on. But we never do the polishing up front. The polishing and the editing always comes later. No. You get that draft down in 20 minutes flat. You don't take any longer than that. You get that baby done. You get that draft done. But you have to be in the right state to do it. And you have to go through a sequence of emotions to be able to do that. And if you feel them as you're doing it, A, you'll be motivated to do it. B, the right information will come out, and C, it will have an emotional impact on the other person who's reading it. Cool. So that's why we're doing states and anchoring, so that it can impact all areas of your business, so that you positively and consistently trigger the placebo effect, so that when you use the RICH system, rapid instant change hypnosis, you are getting consistent customer service. You're adding consistent extra value at all phases, at all parts of the customer journey. So this is just to kind of summarize. I want you to just run through this, because I think this is a really nice way just to bring together what we've done today. Because if you find it a little bit overwhelming, bear in mind that you might spend I guess now it was £2,000 back in the days. It's probably like £4,000 or £5,000. Like some of the NLP practitioner courses, wouldn't surprise me. And you might spend days learning to do this, and you learn about the theory of, well, you must have a pure access state, and then then you'll learn, oh, look, this is how to, you spend a day learning how to set one anchor on your knuckle. And that's cool, I think is good to practice. But really, if you think about it in terms of the way that we've approached revivification, or if you simply think about your experience of being able to get an anchor on here, that's really, those alone are going to be wonderful tools that are going to allow you to do an awful lot of stuff. Think about the deeper principles. If you understand that, you will be able to learn and master the technique, no trouble whatsoever. So the first most important thing to realize is that we as people, and certainly in the NLP model, people operate because of states. So it is our states, the way that we feel, the emotions that we feel, that drive us. And there are a number of things that cause us to feel a particular way. If our physiology is down here, we feel a particular way. If it's up here, we're going to feel a different way. When clients come to see us, or if we have an audience, they will be feeling a certain way, and we need to move them to feel a different way. So if we think about states as being negative or positive, or unresourceful and resourceful, then that can be really useful for us. And what we want to do, our job, is to build up the resourceful states, the positive states, the states that people really love to feel, so much that we can collapse the energy of the older negative states. And hypnosis, we talk about the law of dominant effect. It's also related to cognitive dissonance. And essentially, if we can build up the positive resourceful states, the anticipation, we can use suggestion, just even anticipation that something's going to happen is a positive resourceful state. If we can create a sense of anticipation and implication that something is happening, that something powerful is happening, then we can use that to override the old negativity. How cool is that? And of course, that fits in with what we've been talking about in terms of triggering the placebo effect. We want to amplify those positive states. Now, we can use revivification. We can, you can use a number of ways to anchor these states. Now, you can use the body, so you can use a knuckle on the body. You can just do it conversationally, which is the way that I like to do it. You can do it through stories. When you're working with people, there are certain decision points that you might want to be thinking about in terms of the states that you want to even just thinking through this process, even if you don't actually do these techniques, it's a really good exercise mentally to go through. Are you going to do a collapse anchors where it's simply you've got two states? You've got anxiety, for instance, and they want to feel just sheer relief. And so you're going to need to build up perhaps a state of confidence or happiness. And then once they feel confident and happy, you can then just simply collapse that anxiety. Or is it going to be like a sequence of states that they're going to need to move through, like a chain that they're going through? So for procrastination or depression, just going from depressed to feeling ha-ha might be too big of a jump, and you may need to go through a little bit of a sequence of stuff with them. So it's useful for you to think, is it something where we can just build up this a nice big set of things here and plonk it straight over, or do we need to like do it one step at a time and another little step and another little step and another little step? That's really useful in terms of thinking, your thinking. And then we've got revivification. Revivification, remember, is bringing back to life experiences that they've had that are already inside them, that are inside of us, that are inside our clients, that inspire them, that bring them to life. It's a really beautiful thing to do, revivification, because you can simply ask somebody to pick a memory, you slow down, you use the present tense, you use very small chunks of information, you repeat those small chunks of information, you add sensory details which will amplify it, and you observe the effect. You'll see them start to smile, you'll see them start to come to life, you'll see them start to become excited, you'll just see the way that they hold their body changes. And that, my friends, is when you really, the magic really happens, because it's one thing for a person to say, oh, I've got to be positive, but that's completely different from actually being in that state. When their skin is glowing, when they start to look younger, when there's that kind of glow to the skin, when their eyes are sparkling, when there's a real smile on their face, when there's that lightness inside them, when their voice tone changes. All these things are signals that the magic is happening. A couple of little tips. State. If you want somebody to feel excited, if you want somebody to remember an experience or go back into that, go to that experience first. If you want them to be excited, they get excited inside. You need to feel excited as you ask them. All right, we call this being congruent, because otherwise if you say to somebody, can you remember a time when you felt excited? What's it like when you feel excited? Yeah, that's very different from, can you remember what it's like when you feel excited inside? What's it like when you feel completely alive inside? I mean, if you think back to a time when you have been with people who you love, been with people who totally inspire you, I mean, what's that like? Perhaps you're at a conference and you went out in the evening, or an event, you went out and you just met some people and they just inspired you. They made you feel, that there are some really cool people in the world. And as you're connecting with them and you're having certain conversations, that all of a sudden you realize that there are other people out there who share your passion for working with clients. They share your passion for excellence. They share your passion for growing and changing. And how cool does it feel as you think back to that now? So if I want you to go there, I've got to go there first. I'm imagining there. I'm remembering being in, Utopia, the bar? I want to call it Utopia in Birmingham, and meeting some of the people there and chatting with them. And it was just a wonderful experience. Keep it casual. Yeah, if you want to ask somebody about a memory to revivify, you don't suddenly go, and now we must do the therapy. I want you to deliver your best performance. Go back to that time when you were excited. That time now, get it right, do it right. All right? That's the kind of meta-communication, the suggestion that the sort of average NLP practitioner may sometimes on occasion come up with. You don't want to be doing that. You want to keep it very casual and relaxed. You want to keep the person at ease. So if you can just keep it casual, just say, oh, that's right. So tell me about a time when, what's it like when you go to, one of these events and you meet some really cool people? What's that like for you? Now you're opening the gates, but keep it casual. Or, tell me about a time when you went to a conference, you felt completely inspired. What was that like? All right. So now you've you've got this sort of gentleness in the way that you're doing it, and you're just gently putting that into conversation. And keep it simple. Ultimately, this boils down to one thing, at least in the client therapeutic session, but this is also true of your marketing materials, it's true of your blogs, it's true when you're doing a presentation. What does your client need to feel? What do they need to feel such that when they feel it, the problem no longer exists? And I want you to consider that as you think about the biggest challenge that you have in terms of moving forward with your business, with your coaching, with wherever you want to go in your life, or just the biggest challenge that you currently have. What do you need to feel inside now such that when you do feel it, that problem can no longer exist? And when you think about, what's it like when you think about that? I mean, when you think back to times in your life when you didn't have this problem, or before this problem, ever even started, what was that like? And as you fully consider that now, I want you to consider that anchoring is a very straightforward subject. You understand this now in all its glory, from the beginning, from its humble beginnings in revivification to the more formal and rigid kind of structure that it has in NLP, to the kinds of kinesthetic anchoring that you have, where you can just anchor on 2 fingers, or you could anchor a chain of feelings along there, gently going with 1 finger to the next to set them off. But you realize that you don't need to do that. You realize that you can conversationally just ask somebody to think of an experience in their life where they felt really good. You could even do this with a number of experiences. Imagine being on a phone with a client or having a consultation with somebody, and they start talking about the problem, and then you say, "Oh, let's go on," and then you just casually mention, "Well, so what do you like to do? I mean, what do you kind of like to do? Hobbies? What really gets you? What are you passionate about?" And now you've got somebody telling you about something they're passionate about and sharing that with you, and you're listening, and you're interested. And as they start to tell you, they say, "Well, I like fishing. What do I know about fishing?" It's about, they tell you, "Oh, I like fishing. Oh, well, so cool. Well, so what's cool about fishing? So tell me about this. I mean, I don't do fishing. What is it that you like about fishing?" Well, it's just wonderful when you get the fish out of the water and you look at it and you take that photo, and you know that you're going to be showing it to your friends when you get back. All right. So have you caught a fish recently? When you took a photo, they go, "Oh yeah, about 2 weeks ago, me and Bob were down the creek, or we were down wherever we are, the Thames, and we were doing it, or the River Taff here, and we got this 10-ton marlin, we got this like 2-ton pike, or 2-pound pike. What do I know? I'm going to mix my metric and my imperial, and throw in a few giant fish there. But so they're there, and they're saying, "You know what? Yeah, well, me and Bob were there, and we got this big pike, and it was just, it was this big, because it's always this big, isn't it?" So, so you were there with Bob. And what was the weather like? It was a little bit rainy. So you were there with Bob. It was a bit rainy, but all of a sudden you held this fish. What happens next? Well, Bob takes a photo, and and I look at it and I just smile, because I imagine all my friends seeing it. So you're there, and you're there with your friend Bob, and you catch this, you catch the pike that was this big, and you take the photo, and as you're looking at your phone, you know that you're going to share that with people. And how does that feel as you look at that now? I just feel, I really feel happy. I feel just this contentment inside. You feel happiness and contentment. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how easy it is to elicit states. It is a very, once you've done this once or twice, when you have gone through the revivification process, and you have gotten past any kind of doubts that you might have had about, well, look, if I casually ask them, are they really going to say something? And if I start speaking the present tense, aren't they going to say, well, that's a bit strange? And as I'm saying and as I'm repeating it back to them, is that really going to stabilize the memory, or is it going to seem a bit strange? And if I slow down and I do that, let me tell you, if you do that in a state of curiosity with implication, you will find that you have a magical experience with that person. And you will be one of the few people in their lives who has listened to that degree. You will set yourself apart through doing that, and you will have added massive, massive value to that person, because that experience will start to come back to life and you will have stabilized it. So we've covered a lot of material. We've covered a lot of material today, but you have now got an understanding of anchoring, stimulus and response. However, we don't want to just think about it in those clinical terms. Yes, there are anchors in our environment. Music makes us feel a certain way. So you can use that to stimulate yourself. Listen to the music. I used to listen to the Four Seasons, or sometimes rock and metal for different types of tasks. You can listen to that to inspire you. If you pick the music that inspires you. There are things that we can see in our environment, certain pictures, certain images, certain other things that will make us feel a certain way. And what we want to do in our environments is we want to have the anchors that make us feel good and get rid of the stuff as much as possible that doesn't make us feel great. But when we're working with people, when we're working with clients, we always want to be thinking about, what does this person need to feel and experience? And if you start to think about that, then even if you were to use a script like the CMT script and you were to work that way, once you're in the part of it where you want to suggest or imply that they're excited, or that their life is better, or that they feel good inside, you can start to feel that state inside. And as you're saying those words with that emotion, it will tend to get anchored and conditioned in that other person much stronger than if you just sort of read it out willy-nilly. You have to deliver a performance. And what I really love about anchoring is that conversationally, I can move a person from the problem state. I can suggest to them that they park it, that they leave it. I can then ask them casually, so what's it like? I mean, what sort of things do you like to do? Who's not going to want to answer a question like that? If you ask it in the right way, with enough kindness, with enough gentleness, and you sit back and listen, and you time to time check in and say, oh, look, so you like to do this and this and this, is that right? If you do that, it feels very natural. And of course, the important thing is that you stay there, you keep it casual, and you feed that back to them. So revivification is really lovely. I originally learned it. I learned about it and a number of other techniques from my teachers, John and Julie, in this book. Let's have a little work. Let's have a little look. I'll take that out now. The very beautiful little message they've written inside the beginning there to me on the training, which was really kind. See you inside the garage. But that's because Milton Erickson, of course, used to work inside his garage. You can use this very conversationally. It doesn't need to be anything that takes a long time. It's very natural. It's a very comfortable way. And you need to get comfortable as a professional in our industry. You absolutely must be comfortable setting the tone of the emotions that you want to draw out from people who read the material on your website, who read your flyers, who read your marketing, who read your origin story, people for whom you deliver presentations or lecture demonstrations, your clients. You have to be a master of moving yourself into the states that you want, that basically the emotional state that you want the other person to move into. And so, of course, the really cool thing with that is you know that you're always operating ethically and you're operating well because you're experiencing that. So you're not going to be helping the other person to experience anything that you don't want to experience yourself. So moving from excitement, to curiosity or to excitement, you're going to start to live that, breathe that, feel that inside yourself by doing that. It will come across naturally in your communication to the other person, which means that they will naturally be transformed. Anchoring is natural, it is comfortable. Revivification is simply a way in which you can help people to bring back the experiences that they already have inside them that they want to have more of. Once those are there, you have them there. They're already anchored and conditioned. You could use a word to say, you could ask them, so how are you feeling now? Oh, I feel wonderful now, I remember that. You feel wonderful. So now you've got the word, you have that word wonderful that they've said just there. That is now the anchor. That's an auditory anchor. That's a trigger that you can use later on in hypnosis. So as you close your eyes and go inside, you do feel wonderful. It's just like when you were remembering that experience a few moments ago. And as you remember that experience, you start to feel even more wonderful. So can you see how easy that is? It's so easy to take and use. And these are gifts. These are the hypnotic gifts. These are the things that the person wants to experience more of. And now you can use these. So even if you were using a script, you can still, at the various point where it says, instead of saying you feel positive, you can just say, well, and you feel wonderful. And you say it, ideally, you will say it with the same tone of voice, at the same speed, just generally the way the client says it. If they say, I felt wonderful, you don't say, so you feel wonderful. No, you don't do that, because now you're totally, remember back to it's about the way that you say it, like 55% body language and 38% tonality. So if they say, it's wonderful, then you'll say, that's right, it feels wonderful. So you will just tend to repeat back the odd word or phrase that is naturally their anchor, their association of that experience. So revivification, the way that we do it here, building on the work of Dr. Erickson, is a really nice way, I think, that you can do this conversationally. Okay. Now, of course, you can. With some people, if you were working, say, I think I told the story in one of our previous videos about working with Alex Fowler. She was coming up for a world championship for bodybuilding. She came to natural bodybuilding, and she came to see me. And when we were working together, I would get Alex to sort of stand up, and I would get her to close her eyes and say, Alex, I want you to remember back to a time when you were training at maximum intensity and you felt the strongest that you felt. So you're back there now, seeing what you see, feeling what you felt, hearing what you heard. That's right. Be there now. She be there now. And I would be literally touching her on the shoulder here and anchoring that in, working at full intensity without any doubt, absolute conviction, and going for it. Because she had times in her life where she was doing that, and I would anchor all those feelings in, and I would do it because she was a sports, she was basically a very competitive sports person. She was used to being spoken to with a very sort of strong, authoritative, direct tone of voice. It's absolutely appropriate in that context. And if you're working with sporting performance people, then you can be very direct. You can use some of those kinesthetic things on their shoulders. You can teach them little triggers that they can use to be able to get in a resourceful state before they go out shooting. You can suggest to them that, before you take your shot, those clay pigeons, you squeeze your finger and thumb together and you say that word inside your mind, perfect. You say that word, you'll trigger perfect. And now you go, you take the perfect shot. So you can vary it according to the person and the audience that you're with. But my preference by and large is to work more down the kind of conversational route, because you can naturally and easily help people to feel the way they want to feel. You're doing that without triggering resistance. You're completely putting them at ease. And this is a really nice way for you to think about all areas of your business, because this is another way in which you're using the meta pattern of all patterns. The pattern where we associate the problem and the pain, we step back from it, park that at the back of your mind. The revivification is accessing the resources, and then we take those resources and we can say, as you think back to that old problem that you used to have, as you try in vain to get it back, notice how it feels completely different. So how do you feel now? So can you see this is a lovely, elegant way to work it? It fits within a nice framework. That whole framework of you being the industry expert, of being somebody who wants absolute perfect, consistent customer service end to end. Everything's going to be tying together nicely in your marketing and your branding and your niching through to the consultation. You will have multiple opportunities, by the way, when you work like this, to be able to feel good, because you'll be speaking with the client and they'll say, it's really frustrating because I used to go to the gym, and when I went to the gym, I would nail it every day. And all of a sudden, inside your mind, you're going to be thinking, okay, you just told me that you used to nail it every day, and you'll say that, so you used to nail it every day, is that right? Oh yeah, I absolutely used to nail it. So what was it like when you used to nail it every single day? Well, before I had kids and I was smoking, I would go to the gym and I would just nail it. I would feel alive. I would get to those weights and I would pump those weights and I would feel brilliant. So you would get there and you would do those weights, you would nail it and you would feel brilliant. So now you've got nail it and feel brilliant, and you're going to log that inside your mind. If you're doing a phone consultation, you might even write those words down, because they are the anchors, they're the resources that you're going to be able to use later on. These are the trigger words that naturally are the anchors that activate. They're like the code that activates the feelings inside your client, particularly if you say it back in the same way. Because when your client then comes in to stop smoking, you can say, look, today we are going to absolutely nail this. It's going to be a brilliant experience for you, because by the time you have nailed this, instead of those being nails in your coffin, you will have totally nailed this, and it is going to feel brilliant. So when you get back to the gym, you're going to be able to exercise at full intensity, knowing that you really are going to be there for your grandchildren, for your children as they grow up. How cool does that feel? All right? And you're going to see them immediately light up. You're going to see their motivation amplified, because you are speaking their language. You are speaking their code that allows them to access the feelings, so that when you go into which heightens the expectation, which heightens the response potential, it builds even more credibility and more anticipation, so that when you launch into the convincers and then you go into the hypnotic trance, you've got so much energy stacked in your favor, so many resources that you can use there to help them make this change and amplify motivation, that really it's game over. So I hope you've not only really enjoyed this today, but it's got you thinking starting to think in the level of principle about, what do I need to feel to overcome the problems, the problem that I've got in this situation, such that when I feel it, it no longer exists. And when I'm working with clients, what ways of feeling and thinking, what emotions do I need to, what emotions do they need to experience, such that when they experience them, this problem is no longer there. And when you start thinking like that, you'll see that these will be provided to you. When they start to tell you that, you're going to know it, you're going to notice it, you're going to internalize it, and you're going to start to use it. This is a really cool way of working. And you're going to see now, as we start to apply it through more of the marketing and those kind of areas as well, you'll see how this really fits together. This whole sequence of being able to get into feelings, step back, access resources, and link those resources to other areas is very powerful. When you use it in your marketing as well, you will be very, very consistent. You will really speak to those niche areas, those people who can most benefit from your service, those kind of people who you really want to work and you really want to serve. And they will get fantastic results, because, I had somebody tonight, actually, I'll just tell you a quick story. We're going to speak tomorrow, because it was my son's birthday, and then we're doing this tonight. But, they want to stop smoking. And of course, one of the niches is that I work with are people who are in their 30s, the guys in their 30s. They used to exercise at full intensity many years ago. Then they kind of got, basically, they started smoking, they've got a couple of kids, and now they realise that they're out of breath. But they remember what it was like when they used to really exercise at full intensity in the gym. So who calls me up today? Somebody who's gone to my website. They've seen the story about the guy on there who has, who had a couple of kids, he used to exercise, and now he's back in the gym, now he's nailed it. Okay, now he phones me up, and he just wants to come straight along. I'm still going to make the time for the consultation. I'm still going to go through. I'm going to do things exactly the way as I have been sharing with you here. Why? Because that will create consistency in the process all the way through. I'm going to be giving compliance tests on the phone. I'm going to be checking for motivation. I'm going to be doing all these things. I'm going to make sure that we both feel it's a good fit. He's already, for instance, said to me, well, I want my wife to come along as well for a different thing. Okay, so I'm already going to have to separate that up very early in the conversation and say, well, look, we're going to talk about us now, about this problem. Your wife will speak. If she wants to talk with me, I will speak with her separately about that issue, and we'll have a separate thing. That's a completely separate thing. For now, this is what we're going to do. Okay? So, but I want you to understand that the marketing, the way that I've set that article up, and the way that I run through it, and the way that I speak to it, the way that it's there, will go through a very specific sequence of steps. the pain of the problem at the beginning, then realizing that there is hope. Then the story of the client who comes to see me is in a way, that's the resource stage, the belief, the anticipation, the results. And then the fact that that's completely transformative at the end. The person who reads that will have an experience internally where they go through that sequence of emotions of thinking, is this going to work? Is this believable? Oh, wow, okay, right. Oh, that's me. I'm that person. Oh, wow, somebody else has been through this. Oh, look at the results that they've got. But they're going to be feeling that inside themselves because I've taken time to understand inside their mind the kind of feelings, the sequence of feelings that they want to go through. So don't get too worried about the, do I hold it down for a few seconds? How long do I anchor on this knuckle for? Is it 3 seconds? If a person's excited, I would hold that on there, and say, oh, that's right. Because you feel that, if they're looking there and they're still excited, then keep it on there. It's a matter of 5-10 seconds. Some people might say 3. It's not, honestly, I've not really found it makes too much difference. If I have a client, I tell them to, I'm quite happy to tell them to close their eyes, close your eyes and remember what it's like when you feel excited. So you go back there now and remember that experience and feel what that feels like. That's right. See what you're seeing, hear what you're hearing. As you feel that now, that's right. Very good. Wonderful. That's right. Very good. And take it off. So maybe what will be there, maybe 4, 5, 6 seconds. But honestly, it doesn't matter because you're understanding how to think, and you're observing what's going on, and you're adjusting your communication relative to what you're observing. Today, the most important thing really is to just understand that you want to keep things casual. You want to think about what do they need to feel, and if you want somebody else to get excited, if you want one of your clients to feel inspired, if you want one of your clients to feel alive, if you want them to feel happy inside, then you must, at the moment that you are communicating that, feel that inside yourself. Now, this should become, it will become very straightforward for you to do that, because you'll naturally start to train yourself to do this. At the beginning, you might have to think of something that makes you happy, like the smile of a loved one. But as you're conveying that, the whole point is that you feel that and you experience that inside yourself, and it will be communicated to the other person. So as you consider that you have learned many things today, you have learned many things throughout your life, don't be too surprised if your unconscious mind is much clearer about the ultimate application of this material than your conscious mind, beyond anything your conscious mind could assume. Because even if your conscious mind was to take this material and try to do it the way that it's done here, it may or may not work in exactly the right way that's working for you now, or that you would consciously want it to. But your unconscious mind, through understanding these principles, your unconscious mind, through understanding these principles, your unconscious mind knows so much more and can find ways in which you can naturally continue to surprise and delight yourself day to day through finding that you can use this material elegantly, easily, and wonderfully. So consciously, you have some ideas about things you want to do, and even though we're hypnotists and coaches, and we do like to understand things consciously, but your unconscious mind has many abilities inside. Your unconscious mind, as you sleep and dream, will not only be processing all this information, but it will be processing everything in your life in light of the new learnings and understandings, which means your unconscious mind can start to find ways in which you can feel more inspired and motivated, and naturally work at the level of state with the people with whom you want to connect with. And as you continue to do this, don't be too surprised if when you awaken, you suddenly feel as though a great weight has been lifted from your mind, as you become more focused and very clear inside your mind about the next steps that you can take in your life. Don't be too surprised if you find that building relationships and connecting with other people becomes easier. Because a person may well find themselves with somebody at a certain point, and be enjoying that experience so much simply by asking questions. Tell me more. So you were here and this was going on, is that right? So who else was there? What kinds of things were they saying? So what are they saying? What happens next? And this can become a very natural and easy part of communication for you. And you may not only be surprised and delighted to know that you really have understood fundamental principles, that a stimulus can cause a response, but you've gone way beyond that clinical kind of way of looking at things. And you understand that as a human being connecting with care and appreciation with another person, with their highest interests in mind, and through you actually experiencing and feeling those emotions inside you, you will tend to naturally create a context in which it's much easier for the other person to experience them. And you might start to imagine how valuable that could be for clients who need support and help to be able to stabilize certain ways of thinking and being that perhaps they haven't had habitually in their lives, or they haven't had for quite some time. And you may well start to consider ways in which this can be very, very valuable for you now. So thank you so much for joining me tonight for day 19 for what's the third NLP masterclass. Remember, this is all part of Rapid Instant Change Hypnosis. This is all about having excellence in what we do. This is all about us sharing information, networking, supporting each other to be the best that we can. So, you know, if we're not connected on Facebook, do drop me a line. Let me know how useful this was for you. Do feel happy to ask me any questions. What I really like is the idea that we are in the business of hypnosis, and because we're in the business of hypnosis, and because we are in business, it's important that we understand the hypnosis of marketing, the hypnosis of context, and have the correct framework in which we have customer service excellence in everything that we do, so we consistently get wonderful results. And if you understand how to work at the level of state, which is really the fundamental emotions that drive us, the way that we feel motivated to do things or give value to things, or just really what makes us human. If you understand that and you work at that level and that permeates everything that you're doing, then you will really be delivering a wonderful, consistent service to all the people who you work with. In fact, it'll mean that you're a more consistent and better friend, better listener, better partner, better human being. You'll be able to listen, you'll be able to see, naturally take things in a particular way that allows people you're close to or people you meet to be able to really get into positive experiences, and that can only be a good thing. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I've really enjoyed sharing this. I've not shared this particular model and the way that I've worked and my understanding of it before in this way, not certainly within the context of the Rich model. And this is important for you. It's not just there as a safe for you, just so that we have more technique. No, it's more fundamental than that. And because you understand those principles now, because you can see that, you not only know that you are an even more credible expert in your industry now, but you have the understanding now to be able to apply this and think about it, right across the board, whether it's your marketing, presentations, or client sessions. So go and have a fantastic rest of the day, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me.